Look, this issue has been discussed here in this chamber, it's been discussed in the Dáil chamber, in the AV room, in the Justice Committee, many other committees, and it is good that it's been discussed and different things are being highlighted. But there is a deep frustration among many of the organisations like Safe Ireland and Women's Aid that we're still just discussing. I know that I will acknowledge there have been improvements, there have been acts introduced that have helped things, there's more refuge places, but there's still a lot more to be done. But the fact that this is still continuing, and not just in this country, obviously it's much wider than here, it is shocking though. And I mean, I know in Ireland I think it's 282 women have died violently since 1996, and in the north a concerning figure of 30 since 2020, and that's one of the worst femicide rates in the world. And I think we need to be approaching this issue on an All Ireland basis because, even to do with shared refuge spaces. For example, I come from the county of Cavan. There's no refuge in Cavan. There's no refuge in Monaghan. There's no refuge in Leitrim or in Roscommon or in Longford. So there's a lot of counties there where there isn't. I know there are plans for one. They're moving rapidly in Monaghan. It's going to be some years before we see that in situ, though, and even longer again until we see the one in Cavan. I welcome the fact that there's going to be some safe houses opened very soon in both of those counties. But I mean, if there are refuge spaces in Fermanagh or Armagh and there's spaces in them, there should be cooperation across the border to assist families that seek help. I know there's good cooperation between Women's Aid, both north and south, on those. It's also something that's used by violent perpetrators, where they can skip across the border to evade arrest as well when it comes to a violent episode against a partner or former partner, yet are close enough to that person to still be a threat to them, and it is something that they fear on a regular basis. Some of the acts that have been passed recently, such as Coco's Law and the Non-Fatal Strangulation Bill, they're very welcome. And I know there's other legislation currently moving through the process, like Valerie's Law and Jenny's Law, the Domestic Abuse Register. They seem very slow. I know we have to get them right, but at the same time, the sooner that they can be enacted, the better. In relation to the Guardianship of Infants Amendment Bill, or Valerie's Law, as I spoke there, I know it refers to where a parent is killed by another parent and it's to do with the guardianship of those children. But there's also an issue where there's violence perpetrated against one parent by the other, not leading to death. And children are caught in the middle there, where the parent who may even still be in prison or after they get out of prison still has guardianship rights to the children. And I'm just concerned about that as well, because, I mean, I've met with women whose marriage is broken down, often as a result of violence. There may not be a prison sentence involved. The children are under a court order. The parent, say for the father, most often has visitation rights with those children under a court order. The children don't want to go, and they're terrified, and they're crying. What's the mother supposed to do? Force a little child who's crying that they don't want to go and spend time with their father to go, but she's the one then in violation of a court order. So, I really think the courts and TUSLA indeed need to listen better to the voices of children. It's not about the parents' right to see their child, it's about the child, what's right for the child. If they have access to one or both parents, like many marriages break down and the relationship is good and the children can see both parents. But where that is not the case, I think we really do need to take into consideration what the children are feeling. In relation to victims' counselling notes, I think that practice is just absurd and it is just outright wrong. And I know, the Justice Committee, when they were doing pre-legislative scrutiny of the Criminal Law and Civil Law Miscellaneous Provisions Bill recently, I think there was cross-party support for a complete ban, and indeed an unconditional ban on the use of counselling records in sexual offence trials. And I hope that is going to be the case, because, victims and survivors will say that the practice is deeply traumatising and it causes severe psychological harm and it heightens suicide risk. So I plead with you, Minister, that they are banned for the use in any of those cases. In relation to refuge places, the Istanbul Convention recommends probably around 500 spaces under, according to our population. I mean, 280 by the end of this year is very welcome, but it's still only nearly half or just over half of what we actually require. So we need a lot more spaces than are currently being provided. In relation to misogyny, there is a deep-rooted misogyny in certain organisations within our state. And unfortunately, the organisations that deal with the victims and survivors of domestic abuse and violence, and that is our judicial system and our Gardaí. And I mean, if a woman is going in to report violence, or any person is going in to report violence by a partner against them, they want to be assured that they're talking to a guard that understands and is sympathetic, and not one that has a barring order against him or her for the same offence. And we know there are lots of guards with barring orders, but we don't know how many, because it's up to them to self-disclose. So, I mean, if that's the case, most of them will not. And I think that needs to be changed as well. We need to make sure that the guard who has a barring order for domestic violence is not in a position to be dealing with someone who is coming in to report such a case to them. And also in the judiciary, I know of certain women who will not go to a court when a certain judge is sitting, because they know they will not get their barring order, their safety order, their protection order. So they wait another day and put themselves in danger, because they said it's a waste of time, it's pointless. So we do need an attitudinal change. We do need a lot more education, especially among our young men. I think we just need men to call out this abuse in a lot more vocal manner. Thank you.